Hello and welcome back to yet another retro channel. Today's video is part 4B in the epic Commodore 64 repairathon, and we're going to get back to machine number 4. So without any further ado, let's get going. Okay, so a quick recap of where we were. We replaced the power switch, we tested our voltages, everything was good. We tested the two chips that were already in sockets, both the vic-II and the SID. The vic-II was fine. The SID had some issues with sound, so we're going to end up replacing it. And then we started working on figuring out why the machine wouldn't boot, or actually it would boot in the original exploration video. It would run the diagnostics, but not boot to basic. The diagnostics gave us a bad U10 and bad U1 and U2, the CIA chips. We explored the problem with the memory, the U10, and what I did, because every chip in here was an MT RAM chip, I went ahead and pulled them all, installed sockets, and installed tested good RAM chips. On the dead test, we would get random flashing, sometimes 4 flashes, sometimes 5, sometimes even 6, saying various chips, various RAM chips were bad. Owed to the fact that that is often a problem with the PLA, and the fact that the PLA itself is often an issue, I went ahead and desoldered the PLA, put in a socket, tested the PLA in the ZIF machine, and what do you know, it worked. So the PLA was put back. I did more testing on the RAM, making sure that when I put in the new sockets that I got everything soldered together correctly, that the continuity between all the pins that are common among the RAM was good, that there were no bridges. So all the RAMs testing good. So I decided to look at the CIAs, pulled CIA number 1, put a socket in, tested the CIA in the ZIF machine, and it tested good. So knowing that a bus conflict was a possibility, I ended up pulling and socketing the remaining CIA and the 3 ROMs. I tested all 4 of those chips in the ZIF machine, and they all tested good. So I found one MOS logic chip here. This is a 74LS06. I pulled it, put a socket in, tested the MOS logic version in the TL866 programmer, and it tested good. But just to be on the safe side, I put in a brand new 74LS06 here and returned the MOS to my stores. This logic IC was already socketed. This one was not. I thought there was a possibility that we could have an issue on this one, so I did pull it and put in a socket, tested the original in the TL866 programmer, and it tested good, so I returned it to its position. What that leaves us with, it leaves us with these chips in the timing circuit, but the clock is good, so I'm relatively certain these chips are all fine. That leaves us with the CPU itself, which, as I said, it's attempting to run the diagnostics, so logic would tell us that the CPU is likely good. It could still be bad, but it's not the most likely problem at this point. The most likely location of the problem at this point is in these glue logic chips. Now, to figure out which one or ones might be at issue, there are 2 approaches. One is I could start pulling these chips one by one, putting sockets in, testing them in the TL866, and replacing any that are bad. That logically would get the job done, but every time you desocket a chip or desolder a chip, every time you pull one out and put a new socket in, you risk damaging the motherboard, the PCB. So I would rather figure out which one or ones are bad and only replace those. I've already done enough desoldering and resoldering on this board, created enough risk by doing that I don't want to do any more than is necessary. So what I've chosen to do is I have gotten out my logic analyzer. And what this is, for those of you who might not know, you can connect these leads to logic or to any IC, but we're going to do it with logic ICs. And the analyzer is able to read the signals on those pins and show them to you visually on the screen. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start hooking these up. One by one, we'll hook up each chip. We'll watch its logic happen as the machine is on and see if any of them are behaving erratically. So the first thing we need to do is get a data sheet for the chip we're going to be working on. We're looking first at the 74LS257s. That is these two multiplexers right here. What these chips do is, because the RAM is DRAM and only accepts 8 address bits at a time, you feed it the first 8 address bits and trigger, I think it's RAS first, and then feed it the second 8 address bits and trigger CAS to feed it to feed each chip the full 16-bit address. These chips select the addresses for each of those phases. So what we need to do is make sure that these are giving the right addresses given the particular inputs. So we are going to hook up our logic analyzer. Okay, so here's a trace from the first 257 chip. I will say the logic analyzer is tedious to hook up, little tiny hooks, and it's easy to get the channels in the wrong order, so be very careful as you're hooking it up if you're going to use one. But once I got it hooked up, here's what we're seeing. So AB decides which of the two outputs, or which of the two inputs to pass to the output. When this is low, it's supposed to pass input A to the output. When it's high, it's supposed to pass input B to the output. G is the output control channel, and if you look at the truth table here, that is output control. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. So here's our truth table. Output control, when it's high, the outputs are in a high impedance state. So they're off, basically. When it's low is the only time that we need to look for the proper outputs. Now we're looking at the 257. So we're looking at this column right here. We're not going to look at the other column. So what we need to see, when the output control is low, the input control tells us which of the outputs to look for. So here we look for the output control to be low, so only in this zone. And then what we look for here, AB is high, which means we're going to be looking for output B. So 1A is low, 1B is high. The output should be B. It's high. As long as it's here, it should follow the B. So output matches as long as that is a B. So let's slide over here a little bit. And look at some output A's. Let's zoom back in. All right. So for instance, sure, I'm right here. Low is A, high is B. So when we're low, we should be getting A's. But this is it. Okay, so here is output enabled and low. So we should get A's on the outputs here. So A and the output, those are matching. Okay. Let's take a flyer here and see if we got any better results. No, we're still black screen. We're going to take a shot here and see if we get any different results. Let me grab the dead test cartridge. Has been giving me trouble. I'm not sure if it will do what it's supposed to do. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So that wasn't the problem, or it wasn't the only problem. Okay, the next chip we're going to check is the 74LS139. Grab a tested good CPU. We all know these rolled pin sockets are very unforgiving. Make sure we have the best chance of fitting this in here as possible. Okay, I think we got it in that time. Let us see if we get anything. Nope. Address 15, still high. 14, 13, and 12. So the CPU is not the issue. Oh, wait. I forgot something. It's not going to make any difference, but you guys would yell at me if I didn't fix it. Where did that go? Oh, here it is. I forgot to put back the 257. So try that again. Still nothing. As I said, there are not many places where address lines 12, 13, 14, and 15 are common. PLA isn't causing it because the PLA is out and it's still high. The 257, I just checked for shorts under the chip, but let's pull that out. And we're still high. Okay. 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, and 15 are all high. 8 and 9 do appear several other places on the board. 12, 13, 14, and 15 just don't. 8 and 9 go to U15, which is the 139 that we were looking at. But 12, 13, 14, and 15 don't. Color RAM only goes up to A9. So no 12, 13, 14, and 15. 373 and 4066 only have data, no addressing. The SID, which is not even in there, but it only goes address 0 through 4. CIAs don't go that high. U15 does have 8 and 9 on it. U15 is the 139. I'm desperate at this point, boys. I am going to pull 139. Get it out of there. Okay. Get another 139. Give it a test in the Mini Pro. Tests good. That's the new one. I can't test the old one because the pin was trimmed off of it. I had to put a pin back, and it just seems silly at this point. And yes, I know that does mean I was testing without that pin, but that pin shouldn't have made any difference for the address lines that were screwed up. New 138 is in. Let's see what happens with the address lines. Probably no change. We'll check 12, 13, 14, and 15 on the CPU. There's 15. Oh, wait. That in view. There is 15. Look at that. 14, 13, 12, 9, and 8. Look at that. That little guy. All right. Let's see if we get any output. Oh, we're still black screen. Okay. So now let's try dead test. If I can get the dead test cartridge to work. Well, we got something. That's more than we were getting before. Okay. That's the wrong dead test. So that's the STID dead test. Let's try the original dead test. 4 flashes. Okay. We are making progress at least. Let's check all of our address lines. We haven't checked the ones that weren't related. Address 0 looks good. 1 looks good. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, 9 does not look good. I may have just shorted that though. Let me restart. Still on 9. Okay, there's 9. 9's looking good, but I just shorted it again. Got to stop slipping off the pen. So 9. Oh, no, not good. 9 is not good. It's good to start, and then it goes weird. 10 looks good. 11, 12, 13, and 13's not good. Crap. 14 and 15, and they're back to being bad again. 12, 11. Huh. They were showing good. I'm going to try something that shouldn't work, but let's check it anyway. Nope. No difference with the other PLA. Still 15, 14, 13, and then 12 looks like a clock. and I don't expect anything different. Nope, still black screen without any cartridge, and with the dead test. Four flashes. Address 15. Oh. No, sorry. There. Address 15. Address 14. Black screen. Whoa. Well, now we've got it partially running. Let me show you this here. This is what we're getting now. Definitely got an addressing problem. But the CPU is working. Okay, since we have the dead test in, we do not need CIAs, and we do not need ROMs. But we need everything else that's in there. So, CIAs and ROMs are out. CPU, PLA, VIC are in. Memory's in, and all the glue logic is in. Let's see what we get. Same thing. I'm going to pull the memory. It is possible some of those memory ICs, even though I tested them, maybe they're bad. Maybe they're causing the problem. So I'm going to see about replacing the memory. Okay, we have our 8 newly tested, verified working RAM chips. But while we have the ZIF board up here, let's go ahead and look through these chips that I have recently pulled. Make sure they are still good. Okay, it's the next day. Overnight I had a brainstorm and thought I might have been onto something. If you recall in the 4A video, when we were replacing the two socketed chips back into the board, I commented that these are crap sockets, and that's still true. So I thought maybe the VIC socket was not making good connection between the chip and the underlying board. So I've already gone through with the continuity tester and tested each and every pin on the vic-II from the pin right by the VIC chip to the bottom of the board, and the connectivity was good. If I don't get any further a little later, I may check the individual pins to where they connect to on the rest of the board. But for right now, we're going to assume that that's all right. That leaves us with only a couple of possibilities. We have this 74LS08. We have this 74LS373 in the glue logic. And at this point, with only two left, I think it's an appropriate decision to go ahead and yank those two chips, socket them, and replace them with new. I do have just enough spares on hand to do that. So we're going to go ahead and take care of those issues. Okay, 74LS08, 74LS373. Let's take the old ones over to the tester. This first one will be the 74LS08. Tests good. And now the 373. And it tests good. So we're not going to have any change when we boot this up, but we'll do it anyway, just for craps and giggles. Nope. Black screen on dead test. No surprise. No, it couldn't be that. It could not be that. What I'm about to do now seems to me a little crazy, because what I'm about to try to fix, it should not be the problem. Well, I can tell you in advance, I'm going to be right. This won't make a bit of difference, as it should never make a bit of difference. It's never the color RAM. But I got bad signals on it, so I thought I'd give it a shot. So let's see what we get. Still black screen without a cartridge, and with dead test in, black screen. Well, I have to say those data lines on the color RAM do look better. So let's go through the data lines. The data lines on the color RAM look a lot better than they did. So here are the data lines on the new color RAM. The address lines on the color RAM. Eight and 9 still look off. Look at the address lines on the CPU. Address 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is constantly high. Does it have an initial burst of activity? Yes, it does. And now we're getting the flashing from the dead test, but it's constant flashing, which is just bizarre. Okay, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, and 15 have an initial burst of activity, and then they go solid high. This doesn't make any sense. I suppose it's possible that I got some soldering wrong. So, what were the first things that I replaced? Because we've been having this other issue ever since. The first things that I replaced was the RAM. So do we have an issue with the RAM sockets? Let's check. Okay, folks, I was making a fundamental mistake. This is the pinout that I had for the 4164 DRAM chip. This pinout is not correct. This pinout is correct. You've got your 5 volts on pin 8, and your ground is on pin 16. So this is the pinout to use when checking DRAM. Okay. Now I'm going to check for shorts between the pins. Alright, there's a short that should not exist between pins 7 and 11. So let's see how that happened. Well, as you can see, I fixed it. I kept on checking signals. I kept checking everything. And while I was looking at the address lines, I finally saw something that I missed it because it was so small and so infrequent. I was looking at address line 8 and I saw some little half signals, little like 2 2 volts, 2.2 volts, something like that. Little tiny peaks in there, very, very occasional and very difficult to see. But I finally saw them. And that led me to take another look at the 74LS373, the octal latch. This has the capability of putting its outputs into a high impedance state, in which case they would be incapable of driving the bus. And this is how the system turns on and off, essentially, the vic-II's access to memory. In that high impedance state, it was giving out a small voltage, that little 2.2, 2.5 volts, or whatever it was. And that was going to the 257s. And if you recall, very early on when I replaced the 257s, I didn't have any real reason. I thought I saw something in the logic analyzer that indicated that I should swap these out. And knowing that we have a bus issue, or a problem with memory, the glue logic was a good place to look. And of course, that was after I had already ruled out the PLA by testing it in the ZIF machine. So I pulled these out and I've socketed them, and I took the ones that I pulled out and I tested them in the Mini Pro, the TL866 programmer. And the ones that I pulled out, the old ones, both tested good. But I thought I'm going to do this anyway. So I got 2 brand new ones and I tested both of those in the Mini Pro, and they both tested good. However, it turns out that the one I put in this position in I forget what that U25, I think it is, the one I put here, it must have been sensitive to those little voltages. I don't know if that means it was a fake, and possibly a CMOS 74HC rather than a 74LS TTL level, or what. But when I noticed that problem with the little half voltages, what I did, I pulled the 2 new 257s out, and first I pulled this one out, and I put the original back in. This is the one that was soldered into the board when I was working on it. I put it back in, fired up the diagnostics cartridge, fired up the dead test as well, but both of them worked. They passed with flying colors. So I went ahead and put the other one back in just to be on the safe side, the original. And now this machine is fully working. As you saw, it passed the full diagnostics with the harness with no problem whatsoever. So I can only say that I missed the signs. I missed the little half voltages. I missed that one of the 257s was bad. I can be almost forgiven for missing that one of them was bad initially, because when I did do that testing and did do that swap out, the little bridge was still there. So even if these had been fully working, the bridge on the underside was keeping it from working. But we got there in the end. I will say I I've never put so much time into one of these. We're approaching 50 hours that I worked on this, so that's a lot of time to put into repairing a Commodore 64. But on the plus side, we only had 3 truly bad chips. 2 RAM chips, 2 of the original MT RAM were no good. The other 6 were still good, and the SID, which is rather unfortunate, as I said, because that was a 6581 R4 AR, one of the particularly good, particularly valuable SIDs. So losing that was not great. But I replaced that with a SID from another machine. I thought this one was bad at one point, and I think the reason I thought it was because I was listening to it through my capture device, which unfortunately doesn't always operate at the right speed. It stutters, and I think that's what caused me to think this SID was bad from the other machine. Truth is, it's actually good. So it really didn't cost me anything to replace the SID, and it only cost me a couple bucks to replace the memory. So from a cost perspective, the cost of this repair was actually pretty low. Unlike the last 2 machines, numbers 2 and 3, that the number of bad ICs in those cost me quite a bit. So that being said, I appreciate your time in watching this. I really hope you enjoyed it, and will stick with me for the future repairs, the rest of this repairathon, and whatever else I do. If you liked the video, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. If not, you know what to do with that too. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell so you get notified when I release new videos. I'm going to go ahead and I'll finish this off camera. I've already shown you the modifications I do to the RF modulator to get a slightly better video signal. And the other thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and heat sink all the major ICs except the VIC, because it has a heat sink in this RF can. But I'll heat sink the SID, the PLA, the CPU, the 3 ROMs, the CIAs. And then I just have to finish up the case repairs, and this machine will be done. So thank you for watching. Everybody stay safe, be well, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.